Here I am, a Russian bot surrounded by my technology, my colleagues all trying to take down the West. It would be a remarkable thing, wouldn't it, if we could just relax and enjoy this beautiful country. I'm in Kent, without having to read the machinations of the elite, without having to suffer and succumb to their initiatives, their determination to rule our lives in a way that seems, frankly, rather harmful. And I'd like to touch on how we can be with that. When I set up Peerless Reads, did the first video, March 24th, I simply wanted to point out some salient and simple observations in terms of facts and statistics. But what started to happen was people started to thank me for keeping them sane. And I was touched. It was totally unexpected, and I now appreciate, people still say it, and I now appreciate this very important dimension to how we go about our lives. I've long pointed out that, people had to live their entire lives under the Soviet system, and you can either be crushed by it, or you can adapt and make the best of it. Obviously, some people make the best of it by profiting, by buying into it, by being close, by leveraging that system. Naturally, it's not really my inclination. I'd rather we had a peaceful, quiet, tranquil opportunity to go about our lives. But I'd like to touch on this issue of how we can be at peace even in the midst of everything that's going on. Now, a little bit of this is going to depend perhaps on your perspective of life, but actually far less than might appear to be necessary, because of a very simple observation, which is that we are indeed observers of life. Hence the principle of I am, which is really stating no more than I notice that I observe life. It doesn't matter what is published by a scientist, by the media, by ourselves. It doesn't matter what the maths says. It doesn't matter what anything says. At the end of the day, everything has to filter through a final barrier, a final guardian of who we are, which is our mind. So that even if, as I would have it, the geometry simply demonstrates that, to use a common example, we live on a circular or spherical, approximately spherical object. It doesn't matter what the math says, it doesn't matter what the geometry says, you can still believe in a flat earth. It's perfectly okay. The atheist will say that all the science points to the completely unnecessary concept of a God, and yet a great deal of the planet will believe in a God. Another portion of the planet may not have quite the same conception of God, but they will be, should we say, spiritual, metaphysical. And that's pretty much my world, and I take it for granted, with my brain, with my analytical mind, based on experience. We each have a perspective, but the key point there is that nobody's proof external to us can actually change our right, and it's actually more than a right, our intrinsic feature, which is that we observe the world. Now, how is that relevant? Well, at the first level, we can observe the world and find it very disheartening. And there's a great deal of weight of evidence that says it's very sensible to do so. By the same token, a lot of people, the people that we might consider to be asleep, they can be disturbed for very different reasons. They can be disturbed at Russian aggression. We can be disturbed at the Western politicians that turned Ukraine into a bear baiter. We can all be disturbed. But beyond that first level, there is then a second level, which is that we have some choice, we have some control. And I'm not a great fan of, should we say, pretending or obliging ourselves, or, saying, oh, I'm a happy person, even though deep down we feel deeply disturbed or whatever. I think that, we are rational beings and we have a great deal of reason to be disturbed. We have a great deal of reason to be concerned. But there is a citadel, a keep, a place of safety that we can fall back on. And it is simply our sense of self. I think it's probably reasonable, fair to say, that the kind of people that, have followed my work or watched my videos, we're all very ordinary people. We're not standing in front of thousands of people with them cheering us on for our wealth, cheering us on for our ideology, cheering us on for our politics. No, we're just ordinary people who want to go about our lives. But deep within, that sense of what I might call decency, that sense of fairness, that sense of, life shouldn't be quite such a stressful mess, can become, if we allow it to, a source of strength. Because I've certainly experienced it, just as I've experienced days of, very dark anger and frustration and despair, and when I see just how, and I don't like the term, but they really are becoming entirely evil in their determination to impose their world upon us. Equally, however, there are days when, the sun is shining and I can be at peace and relax and enjoy. And the key to this is that it is something that we can only find within ourselves. It isn't perhaps a trivial thing. We either consider ourselves grateful and fortunate to experience it, or it seems elusive. But if we can look at and hold on to the fact that we consider ourselves at the end of the day to be ordinary, reasonable, and decent human beings, that can be a source of strength. We can realize that we cannot control what the politicians do. But equally, at least so far, without chips in our brains, they cannot control who we are, our sense of self, our sense of identity. So I'd just like to leave you with that, with the idea that no matter what is going on out in the world, it is important for ourselves, it's important for our community, it's important for society that we treasure ourselves and appreciate ourselves for being at heart decent people that would just like a world that made a little bit of sense, a little bit of reasonableness that would allow us to get on with our lives. So, there you go, just a brief thought for the day.